Right now on 9 News Mornings, COVID-19 hospitalizations in Colorado are still climbing. This morning, we're hearing from Governor Polis and his plan to address the trend. President Biden also has a plan for domestic policy, and paid family leave might not make the cut. Looking ahead, the Broncos have a Halloween game coming up, and they don't want the scare of a 5th loss in a row. But if history is any indication, it is not looking good. We'll go back into our archives coming up on 9 News Mornings.
And we begin with breaking news this morning. A suspect is in custody after reports of a possible shooter at LAX grounded flights for almost an hour. Look at this scene. The airport says about 300 people inside the airport evacuated to the tarmac. 2 people were hurt during the evacuation. Officers say no shots were fired and they didn't find any weapons.
Taking a live look now at Denver on this Friday morning, wondering about that Halloween forecast. We're going to talk about it in just a minute. And if you're not into Halloween, something else pretty exciting is happening this weekend.
And tomorrow morning, the Loveland Ski Area opens for business. The opening about 2 weeks earlier than it was last year. Coming up in just a little bit, 5:45, Matt Renew will join us live from Loveland to preview that opening day. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us on this final Fright Day of the month. Get it? Fright Day of the month?
Got it. We got it. Fright Day. Halloween, 2
Just
days
saying.
away. And
I don't get it.
Could you explain it a little more?
Yeah, right? Okay.
So a lot going on, as Natasha just said. And let's go over to Ed. So Ed, it sounds like one of the days sounds nice. And then, of course, Halloween, brr.
Should I be cliche and say, ooh, a scary, spooky forecast for
Yeah.
Halloween? Well,
Yes.
that's actually what we got going on. As we take a look at the Halloween forecast, here it is. We're going to see mostly cloudy skies during the day, then a chance for some late day showers. This may come after dark, so you might be all right. And the high is only going to be 46 degrees. That's the high. Now, a lot of trick-or-treaters go out after we've reached the high into the evening hours, and so we could see some rain mixed with snow. You might have to dodge a few of those showers. Highs will stay in the 40s. That is your spooky Halloween forecast. But take a look at this before that happens. Today, 72 degrees and lots of sunshine, and tomorrow, 68 degrees. We'll keep the sunshine around. Then the clouds move in for Sunday, Halloween, and we do see a high of just 46 degrees. A couple of showers late in the day.
And outside, everything looking very good. We have a live look from our camera Department of Transportation, I-25 at Colorado Boulevard. It looks like the camera has moved off to the side a little bit, but there's not very many cars out there right now. Now let's move over to our maps where we're still seeing a lot of green all across the metro. That means great drive times if you're heading out anytime soon. If you'll be traveling along I-70 between I-25 and I-225, you're looking at about 8 minutes going east, 7 going west. And if you'll be traveling along I-25 from downtown to the Denver Tech Center, 13 minutes going south, just a minute longer if you'll be traveling north. And then finally, if you'll be traveling along I-25 from E-470 to I-70, 9 minutes going south. If you're in those northbound lanes, expect about a 13-minute drive there.
Lauren, thank you. It sounds like we're repeating ourselves, but each day this week, COVID-19 hospitalizations in Colorado have gone up. Right now, there are almost 1,200 people in the hospital with COVID-19. 9 News reporter Darius Johnson in the studio with us this morning. And Darius, Governor Polis has a plan to try to get these levels back the other direction.
Hey there, Natasha. Good morning. The governor has a 5-step plan that he hopes to put in place starting Monday. And the primary goal is to keep rooms in hospitals for people who are suffering from COVID-19. Right now, nearly 1,200 people are hospitalized, and that's higher than we were in the last 2 weeks, but it has dipped slightly since Wednesday. Hospital capacity is the biggest issue right now. According to the state health department, 92% of acute care beds are full, and 93% of ICU beds are also full. ICU beds are at the highest they've ever been before, and Governor Jared Polis says it's time to take action.
So the reality is we have a high level of cases in Colorado. The virus peaks at different points in different places, not just in our country, but across the world. It is in our region of the country experiencing a peak right now that is very challenging for our hospital capacity.
Now let's get to that 5-step plan. Right now, the governor is prepared to request medical surge teams from FEMA to help with personnel issues. He's also ready to stop cosmetic surgeries and elective procedures. Listen to this. Starting on Monday, the monoclonal antibody treatment will be administered on mobile buses to free up hospital space. They're going to have 5 of those buses, but 2 of them will start administering that on Monday. Natasha, coming up in the next hour, I'll go more in depth into the governor's plans and hopes to to get children in Colorado vaccinated.
All right, Darius, thank you. We'll see you soon. The same group seeing the biggest increase in COVID-19 cases right now in Colorado could start getting vaccines as early as next week, like Darius just mentioned. There are more than 479,000 kids in Colorado aged 5 to 11, the last and latest group waiting on vaccine approval.
The best part about the shot is that it's gonna keep me safe, and the worst part about the shot is that it's a needle, and I don't like needles.
Those are sisters Charlie, Ellie, and Sydney Brewer. They're all part of a kids' vaccine trial over the summer. Once the shots get federal emergency approval, they'll find out if they got the placebo or vaccine. Both mom and dad are local doctors and felt very confident in the vaccine safety.
Full confidence. So, of course, these studies are done by our colleagues who went through similar trainings and similar backgrounds, and we obviously have that education understanding of the process. And so, having that on board made it easy for us to make that decision early for these girls and feel safe for our kids in making this decision moving forward.
The state is planning for at least one pediatric clinic in every Colorado county. The state plans to partner with pediatricians in schools, plus family-friendly spots like museums and zoos.
Well, you might think that college campuses are where COVID-19 is spreading fast in the state, but that is not the case in Colorado. University of Denver, for instance, has some of the strictest COVID protocols of any school in the state. Even with a 97% vaccination rate, students and staff are required to get tested regularly and wear masks anytime they're inside. The university's COVID response coordinator tells us that more than 9,000 tests were processed at the school just in the past week, and only 0.32% have come back positive. Compare that with the rest of the state, where the positivity rate is about 8.9%.
You do not follow your required testing schedule, if you test positive or otherwise are not compliant with our protocols, for example, don't have a vaccine record, you will not be able to access buildings. Your badge will not work.
Yeah, all the biggest universities in Colorado require COVID vaccines for students and staff. Not all require frequent tests, though, and other measures.
A teenage girl who was shot during a domestic violence incident earlier this month has died from her injuries. She and a man were shot by 18-year-old Zaire Daniel near Hampton Avenue, north of Cherry Creek Reservoir. Police say Daniel was found dead at the scene by a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The other man who was shot is expected to be okay. A Coloradan accused of swatting at a flight attendant is now on probation. Landon Greer pleaded guilty to an assault charge for what happened on a flight from Seattle to Denver last March. Court records say he swatted at a flight attendant, exposed himself, and began urinating on the plane. Greer admitted to the FBI he had several drinks before the flight. He must also undergo alcohol rehab. A sentence was handed down this week for a man who posed as a fire inspector to burglarize 4 Castle Rock restaurants in February 2020. Michael James Lupe was sentenced to 20 years in prison after he pled guilty to second and third degree burglary and criminal impersonation. The outpatient clinic at the Aurora VA is one step closer to getting a new name. The Senate just passed a bill to name it after Lieutenant Colonel John Mosley, a veteran and civil rights activist. Colonel Mosley was a Denver native who eventually lived in Aurora, a Tuskegee Airman, civil rights activist, and the first black football player at CSU. Drivers in parts of the metro area will soon get a new warning when they're going too fast. The message they'll see: your speed can kill. People in Louisville will be the first to see one of the new signs along South Boulder Road. The goal is to make people realize that deadly crashes from speeding don't just happen on the highways. And that's your Morning Rush.
It's a framework that will create millions of jobs, grow the economy, invest in our nation and our people.
Well, it's taken months, but on Thursday, President Biden announced a framework for his domestic policy plan. The $1.75 trillion framework announced yesterday includes new health care, child care, and climate change programs. But there's a lot that had to get cut out just to get the support of members of the president's own party. 9 News reporter Jordan Chavez connects the dots on one of the components that had to go.
No one got everything they wanted, including me.
That includes national paid family leave. The idea was in President Biden's original $3.5 trillion Build Back Better proposal. $225 billion of that money was to be set aside to offer full-time workers up to 12 weeks off after having a child or to recover from illness, care for a disabled relative, or deal with the partner's military deployment. The proposal called for up to $4,000 a month in paid leave. It was cut because Senate Democrats need support from their entire caucus to pass the president's plan. Right now, the United States is one of just 6 countries without national paid family leave program. We are one of 8 without national maternity leave, according to the World Policy Analysis Center. In the private sector in the U.S., companies with 50 or more employees must offer up to 12 weeks of unpaid time off, thanks to the Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, only 23% of private industry workers have access to paid family leave. And that's Connecting the Dots. For 9 News Mornings, I'm Jordan Chavez.
Jordan, thank you. Many progressives say that they still don't trust moderate holdouts. Democratic Senators Kristen Sinema and Joe Manchin suggested that the price tag was not too high. Without enough Democratic support, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is still not saying when she'll call a vote.
One thing you want to know about the weather today, it is going to be really nice. Temperatures well above normal. Look at the front range here. 60s, 70s, lots of sunshine. Tomorrow, not quite as mild, but still above normal with mostly 60s. And we'll keep the sunny skies around.
And one thing to know about the roads is everything is still looking great. No accidents reported, no issues out there. So if you're still heading out for that morning commute, looks like you're seeing great drive times.
All right, thanks, Lauren. One thing for sure, the Broncos don't want to lose 5 games in a row, right? They have a Halloween game this Sunday, which could be a problem because Halloween is a terrifying day in team history. Here's Scotty Gage.
In the last 55 years, the Broncos have played 8 games on October 31st and lost 7 of them. 1988 was awful. Denver gave up 4 rushing touchdowns to Eric Dickerson as the Colts scored 55 points on the boys. 2004 wasn't much better. Jake Plummer, he threw for 499 yards, and they still couldn't get that sweet Halloween taste of victory. Michael Vick ran all over the field, put up 42 points. Not even a Halloween biscuit could help the Broncos in 2010. They lost by 8 to the 49ers in London, and Josh McDaniels was later caught illegally filming the Niners walkthrough, which was a factor in his firing. 1993 was the only time in the dark Denver history where they got a win, taking down the Seahawks thanks to some guy named John Elway who threw for 255 yards and Robert Del Pino's 2 touchdown runs.
Right.
Okay, there's some names from the past, right? Oh, man. All right, so the Broncos play at home this Sunday afternoon at 2:30 against Washington. We're going to have lots of post-game coverage Monday right here on 9 News Mornings, but it is Halloween, so we'll just keep our fingers crossed.
Right.